For those of you who don't know Rob, I've known Rob probably for 20 years or so. He has hit the ground running, like we never missed a step at any time in between from Mr. Hankerson. And he is a great person. We go to the same church, and he's just a wealth of knowledge for us at the county, and he is great with the public. So if you ever need anything and I can't help you, he's the man. Thank you.
We might have to lower this thing a little bit more. Can anybody hear me okay? Yeah, yes I am. I used to be 6 foot before I took this job. Guys, I'm going to follow some rules that my father taught me about public speaking. The 3 T's, I'm going to take my time. I took my notes up here, and then I'm going to take my seat. Meaning, I'm going to try to be brief. Hopefully, there'll be some questions that I'll be able to assist people with. A couple things before I get started. I did want to kind of correct Eddie. Lynn Wigington is in charge of everything at Croy. I'm just going to tell you right now. We've worked together a long time. Actually, when I was retired and I was a consultant, Lynn was running the City of Powder Springs building department while there was somebody on medical leave. So I think Lynn does everything at Croy. The other thing, household too. That's not what Frank tells me. I also wanted to congratulate the principal from Shallowford Falls Elementary. I was going to say that for about 14 years there was always a HOSAC at Shallowford Falls Elementary, and we could not have had a better place for our kids to go to elementary school. The only time I really had to go there when the girls were there was for an award. Bo, not so much. Anyway, it's been the same way in middle school too. What I thought I'd talk about, guys, is just to kind of give you an overview or a 30,000 foot level of the county. I also wanted to talk about some neat, innovative things that your staff is trying to do for you. Thought I'd touch also on some SPLOST related projects, particularly as it relates to the area we're in, the Northeast Cobb area. First and foremost, I think everybody has been reading about the fact that our tax digest, as far as real property goes, experienced the greatest growth that it has in the history of Cobb County. I think that is noteworthy to mention only because the closest, the year we came in comparison to a percentage growth, like we grew in terms of dollars and percentage of dollars. The only other time we did that was in the mid to late 80s. And that was largely because the county had an absolute boatload of green space, and it was growing at leaps and bounds. Chairman Barrett had started the countywide sewer program, and Chairman Smith at the time had passed the county's first SPLOST. Well, fast forward to the year 2017 when we just experienced that same growth. What I think is most impressive is the fact that we did that with probably about 45% less green land available, meaning a lot of the redevelopment stuff that this organization was very active in, particularly along Canton Road, as well as some of the other initiatives that the county put into effect, really kind of paid off. Now, to be honest with you, the Braves, SunTrust Park, and the Battery, that had a significant influence. I realize there are folks throughout the community that have thoughts about how the Braves came about and whether or not there should have been a vote. And that's good. There should be discourse about that in the community. I will say that as a person working for the county and working for you now, it has really yielded some positive benefits. I think that there are hotels in that general area that have absolutely broken records that they never thought they'd ever break as far as occupancy goes. The sales tax estimates that we had originally projected have been exceeded by about 20 to 25% just in the first 2 or 3 months of data that we have. The ticket sales have been better than expected, but I think more importantly is it had been almost 25 years since the county had actually had a new Class A office space built in the entire county. And right now, we've got 3 that are out of the ground and are getting ready to be occupied, and all of these buildings are going to be headquarters. We've got Synovus, we've got Home Depot Supply, and what's the other one, Joanne? I'll think of it in a minute. That kind of stuff, you know, that doesn't happen without there being a lot of good planning, and that doesn't happen without folks realizing that there is a big time, you know, market in Cobb County now. I think it's actually kind of changed the way we're going to interact with the rest of the region. I think that it's going to change the type of businesses that we attract in the future, and basically, most businesses, I think, and the chairman alluded to this yesterday, starting out, it may take 5 years to be profitable. Our estimates right now that are such that we think in 5 years, even with all of the monies that are being directed towards repayment and the debt that was associated with part of the deal, within 5 years, the county's going to be on the positive side. And there's 25 more years of that deal remaining that if things continue the way we think they're going to continue, we'll just continue to make more money. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There's some bumps and bruises right now with folks as far as what the county taxpayers are having to put into the deal, but we think ultimately in about 5 years it's really going to start to pay off. Not to mention all the halo effect, for lack of a better term. Did want to mention a couple of things that have been kind of newsworthy just in the last 3 or 4 months. We hired a new police chief, and if you guys have not had a chance to meet our new police chief, I would encourage you to do so. His name is Mike Register. Is an absolutely fantastic stand-up person. He has hit the ground running. He took the results of the IACP report, which is a report that the board had done about a year ago. We received the results in early June, and literally in about 2.5 months, Chief Register has started about 5 new initiatives, one of which is going to be each precinct will have a community outreach officer. I would be very surprised if the precinct for this particular area, if that community affairs officer weren't at this meeting once a month. Think that's a really good approach. Mike is very, very strong in community-oriented policing, and to be honest with you, as we move from suburban to more of an urban county, that's a really good idea in my opinion, and from what I've read, you should start moving towards community policing. Got a couple things. Oh, I did want to mention the one thing about the Braves too. It kind of flew under the radar a little bit, but I don't know if everybody if everybody reads the MDJ. A couple of weeks ago, there was a piece in the Around Town on Saturday about a letter we got from the city of Sandy Springs, and I can tell you, I was involved at the very front end of the deal when we were doing things, trying to get the project off the ground, and visited with the Sandy Springs people 2 or 3 times, the city council, and they were just all over us about how bad traffic was going to be. It was going to ruin the roads, and everything was going to be a complete disaster. And of course, I don't think they gave us credit for doing things the Cobb County way, but we actually got a letter from the mayor and the Sandy Springs City Council saying, oh gee, we were totally wrong. You guys were right the whole time. The traffic has been fantastic. So that's a credit to all the folks, all the partners that were involved. A couple things on the innovation side, guys, that I wanted to mention. There's been a lot of talk, I think, particularly as the budget has been developed, about, you know, empty buses with Cobb Link in a way to better utilize that asset that the county has. One of the things I think we're going to be trying to do here in the next 6 months, it is a really, really neat approach, is kind of related to the flex bus concept that we have. We're actually we're instead of paying for these vehicles to drive around, we're instead going to do a partnership with Lyft and Uber. We think it has a chance to save the county significant money. And to be honest with you, I think it'll also probably serve the folks that are dependent or utilizing the transit much better than kind of having the inconvenience of having to go to a fixed point now to be able to get on one of these buses. So kind of a neat, innovative approach. Look for that to roll out in the next 6 to 8 months, hopefully. We are also working on some stuff to make it easier for you as business people, our customers, to be able to remit taxes and fees that the government charges you each year to operate your business. I think right now everybody, like I got for the last 2 years that I ran my LLC, you get something in the mail, you have to fill out a bunch of forms, then you have to mail it in or you have to go stand in line at community development. We are quickly moving towards being able to do that all online. As well as accepting a credit card for that over the internet, as opposed to having to come into the office. So we're going to keep pursuing that, because ultimately it makes good sense for our customers. And to be honest with you, it's beneficial to the county because we put the money in the bank faster and there's less chance for error. We're going to do that same thing for those like Frank that are in the construction business or need to submit documents to us to obtain either building permits or land disturbance permits. We are in the pilot program right now of being totally paperless, where everybody can do that online. Again, that's something that I think is going to make things easier and more efficient for our customers. The pilot program should be finished probably in the next 2 or 3 months, and then we'll probably move towards a full-blown rollout on that. Did want to mention a couple of things that we're doing on the SPLOS side, and these are more technology related, but I think will have a positive effect for you as business people, but really for Cobb County citizens in general. We're looking at a total overhaul of our website and moving towards more of a portal concept where you do all kinds of business and transactions as opposed to just downloading information. We are going to be loading on the front end a new dashboard kind of system that will allow you as business people to basically click on a point on a map that's near your business, draw a circle around your business, and I am not an IT person, so if anybody has any really hard questions, I'm going to duck them or I'm going to take my seat. But from what I've been told, this is smart data. So when you click on something, based on the history or based on a couple of questions that you'll be asked when you enter the portal, it's automatically going to say, well, you know what, Roseanne probably is going to want to know what the median house price is. She's going to want to know what the comparable sales have been. She's going to know what the school scores are at the elementary schools that are within this area, and it'll automatically populate a report for you. And you can click it, download the report, and you have all this information. The same would hold true for Eddie and perhaps engineers needing to know what traffic counts are, where there's been accident history. Again, they answer a few simple questions before they start their session, and then once they click in certain areas, it automatically starts populating all kinds of data for you. So we hope that's going to be completed. We called that the Big Data Project, and it was actually approved by the Board of Commissioners earlier last month. There's actually an agenda item that will be considered next Tuesday evening that'll actually purchase the software to put this into play. So definitely something that I think will be business friendly. A couple of other things that we did is basically we've kind of rolled out what we call a Connect system, which unfortunately if you have to pay a traffic summons or you have received a ticket, a lot of this stuff will get rolled out and it'll be a little easier to deal with the court system online now. Last thing as far as SPLOST goes, I had a couple of project updates for you. I don't know if I brought enough packages. I decided not to bore you guys with a PowerPoint because I can't stand to go listen to somebody just read PowerPoint slides. So I brought along some photos, and I hope we left them at each of the tables. It's a packet of photos. Just wanted to kind of give you a highlight of some of the SPLOST projects that we're doing in this general area. We've got Harrison Park improvements as far as the rec fields go. We've got the Kennesaw splash pad that's up at Swift Cantrell Park. Something that we're really, really excited about and would encourage all of the business organizations to be aware of is we're getting ready to ask the board to move forward with approval of a total overhaul of the exhibit halls at Jim Miller Park. I don't know how many folks go to the North Georgia State Fair every year, but the exhibit halls are old. You can tell they were built in the 60s and are challenging, particularly when we try to accommodate a large number of people. I think one of the, it's the third to last picture that's included in the packets is a renovation of what the Jim Miller Park, particularly the exhibit hall renovations, will look like. This is going to be kind of state-of-the-art. It's going to have the collapsible, movable walls, and literally we think would be able to accommodate gatherings of up to 2,500 to 5,000 people. That, I think, is significant in that if there is an organization or a conference that needs to be held and doesn't necessarily need to be at the Marietta Conference Center or the Galleria, I think this would provide for a pretty affordable and centrally located option. So we're excited about that one getting online. We're doubling the North Cobb Senior Center, the size of the North Cobb Senior Center, and that's actually under construction right now. Did want to leave DOT projects that are included in the SPLOST out. So a couple things wanted to mention, and I think that Commissioner Burrow had made reference perhaps to one of the upcoming public meetings. We just finished, which was good news for me and my family because we live kind of catty corner right across the street from Pope High School. We just finished the roundabout there. Absolutely works very, very well. I understand some of the students may have struggled with it the first couple of days of school, but actually it really does make a difference. I don't know if anybody came in the way I did. I came from 41, but we've got the East Piedmont sidewalks that are well underway right now for the other side of the road. The Town Center CID is doing a lot of really neat stuff as it relates to the South Barrett reliever, which I think when that gets finished up will provide for some significant traffic relief. And then finally, we've got a couple of bridge replacements that we're working on over in East Cobb that we think will help kind of move traffic between Fulton County, Roswell, and Cobb County. So, questions? Yes, sir.
With the millage that was big on the paper, do you see I got two questions too. Do you see like in the future maybe lowering that millage rate to even lower than what it is now? And I want to know how it was to go to college in Cullowhee, North Carolina.
Great question. Can I just answer the last one? I'm teasing. I think the board is always, I think this board particularly is always very responsive to comments. They're very mindful of the taxpayers' money. There was a slight millage that was proposed. I think the board decided to go to another route. We are going to be in the coming months working with the board on, because one thing I think that Chairman Boyce mentioned yesterday, because we used some one-time money to balance this time, when we start the preparation for the 2019 and 2020 budget, we'll be slightly in the hole. So what we're going to be talking about in the coming months are ways to fund needs that certain elected officials might have. And then particularly, we may be looking at reducing certain services in order to kind of reduce our costs. So Long answer to your question, I think the board is always very mindful of the millage rate and respectful. And it'll probably be something that we just continue to work with them on through the next, let's say, actually for the next 12 months. I will say this, we're going to try to do a better job as staff to provide the Board of Commissioners with information about what every department, what every elected official needs, and what that would cost. And we're going to do it in January. The way the process has worked for the last 30 years, and this is not a bad rap on previous boards or previous county managers, it's just the way things have worked, but they get this information about a month and a half of when they're asked to vote on it. I think we as staff could do a much better job giving them information 7 months in advance of when they're going to need to vote on something. So that's kind of what's on the horizon. I will say this, going to college in Colway, North Carolina was really cool for me. I grew up in Tampa Bay, over in St. Petersburg on the West Coast. When I was 18 years old, I had never seen snow and didn't own a coat. And when I went off to Western, I saw plenty of snow. Although I was there a long, long time ago, it's a much different place than it is now. But if you have a chance to, or you have kids or grandkids that want to go there, it really is it's a neat place to go to college. A lot of outdoor stuff that can be done. Probably a good thing for me. There weren't casinos 30 minutes from campus when I was there either. So, neat place to go
My
though.
wife grew up in Johnson City, so she went to EPSU, which was Big Rob.
Oh, we were. That was one of our big problems. Absolutely. Other questions? Yes,
I
sir.
have a question. For general business, does Cobb County have a local vendor preference, or has there been any consideration for that? Because I know Cobb County purchases a lot of things.
Yes, we do. And I'm not just saying this because she's sitting here, but actually you can thank Joanne for that. She started this about 5 years ago and has just been slowly improving it each year. So there is a local vendor preference. The other thing that Commissioner Burrow started is that we will, I think it's quarterly now, where we'll actually do a keep it in Cobb.
Twice a year.
I'm sorry, okay, it's semi-annual.
How to do business with Cobb.
Yeah, and what we do with that is we get all the department heads, in addition to all the procurement staff. They're sitting in one room, and basically we kind of do a very brief presentation on how to navigate the county's purchasing website, because most of that is all done electronically now, and how to comply with the onerous requirements that the state put in place, 8 or 9 years ago, as far as the immigration related information goes. But once we do that presentation, it's just basically a time for everybody to come by, leave cards, talk to different department heads, because I think a lot of times folks may not realize that, the county has a very specific need for, specialized signage. We've probably hooked up with more printing companies as a result of these meetings, because there's just all kinds of public notice signs that need to be published, and each of them have different little special niches. So that's kind of proven to be a real successful way for us to connect with vendors that help us do our job better.
I've got one.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, thank you for being here today. I know Wade Green Road is doing the diverging lanes, I believe. I know it's just started under construction. What's the time frame on that?
I think if I'm not mistaken, it was 365 days from notice to proceed. So usually diverging diamonds.
My newsletter.
Yeah.
Actually, every week we put, all the commissioners put out a newsletter.
Might be going to spam.
No. All you have to do is go to cobbcounty.org/Burl or any of our last names, and you can get all the newsletters. But we all have a DOT update, and the diversion diamond interchange of Wade Green is in my district, so all the information will be in there. But it is going to be a year from.
I will tell you though, has anybody had a chance to use the Windy Hill? Really does make a difference. So once you and again, you just have to have somebody out there for about 2 or 3 weeks, making sure people are doing what they're doing. are supposed to be doing, but it really does work pretty well. Yes, ma'am.
I went through the intersection of the new roundabout over at Pope High School yesterday, and it still seems like there's going to be problems, especially with the kids coming out of school, because unfortunately I hit it right at the discharge time for the high school. Are there any efforts to try to do something different or divert traffic or something? Because it just seems like it was very, very, very full of cars wanting to get out of that.
No, Rosa, to tell you the truth, I think hopefully as people learn a little better what yield means, it's not like a recommendation, it's a directive, and you got to yield. I think if once folks get more used to it, and once folks kind of yield to let the folks in, it'll get a little better. I will say this, I think what's happened is a lot of kids aren't necessarily going home first, because if they were, they would be taking that dedicated lane that goes south on Hembry. I think instead they're getting in the roundabout, and I was just telling the young man that is getting my money at least 2 nights a week that just opened the Chick-fil-A. I think they're all going around the roundabout to go to the Chick-fil-A on Shelford. Because I guarantee you that's where my kids go. So I think there's a lot of them that are coming out and going left when modeling wise we thought they were just maybe going to go out and go right.
The issue is that's the only way in and out of Pope.
I know.
It always has been. There's no back way or access out the back. But the positive thing about the roundabout is there's more than one lane, so the vehicles, the cars coming in, students or parents dropping off, are in a separate lane from the bus traffic that go to pick up the kids.
It's going to take a while for people to figure it out. 'Cause actually, the most timid drivers were those who were not students, and they were stopping and waiting for people to decide if they were going to turn or go on. It's like, move.
Well, and Rosa, I'll tell you what's going to be, and now see, the lucky thing for me, I walk to all the football games. But the big test, I think, is when we have a home football game and the visitors show up and they're not used to the roundabout. That's when I'm going to be glad I'm walking over there. Even when it's hot, I'll still be glad I'm walking over there. Other questions? Okay, I'll leave some cards too, guys. I appreciate you having me. I don't ever get out of the office anymore, so thank you.
Thanks, thank you.
Thanks, man.
Let's have a little token of our appreciation for your time coming out here talking.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Enjoy it. All right, it's time for door prizes. Can I have our interns in attendance hustle on up to the door prize counter? It's only supposed to be squeezing the agenda, we skipped. So,
One more quick announcement.